This is some phenomenal work here from Media Matters that I have to share with you. So there's a CNN contributor by the name of David Urban, and this was just an egregious overstepping or even destruction of journalistic integrity here from CNN. So they say CNN commentator lobbied for Norfolk Southern. The network didn't tell its audience during East Palestine discussion. This is unbelievable. This is the kind of stuff that if any independent media outlet did this, immediately they'd be dragged through the mud. They'd be called, basically a fake news operation, charlatans, frauds, and they'd be donezo. But since it's CNN, they just get away with it. And by the way, Media Matters cover this. I haven't seen anybody else talk about it. Even though this is a gigantic conflict of interest. You think you're going to get good information when one of the commentators gets paid, son, by Norfolk Southern, who is responsible for this disaster. The train derailment, the chemical fire, the cover-up is amazing stuff. CNN State of the Union and host Dana Bash held a Sunday roundtable discussion about the East Palestine, Ohio train derailment featuring CNN political commentator David Urban, who said that, quote, "There's plenty of blame to go around on this," and pivoted to criticizing the Biden administration. CNN never disclosed or asked Urban about his work for Norfolk Southern, which paid him and his then lobbying firm over $1 million. Wow. So do you think he's going to maybe run interference for them? You think he's going to maybe muddy the waters? You think he's maybe going to deflect and distract and obfuscate from who the real criminals here are? Urban was, until 2020, the president of the lobbying firm American Continental Group, where he lobbied for Norfolk Southern on, quote, transportation issues related to railways. Starting in 2009, according to federal disclosure forms, he and his firm collected at least $1.14 million, according to a calculation of federal data by ProPublica. The Republican commentator, shout out to ProPublica, who actually did some good work on this too. They're a phenomenal journalistic outlet. The Republican commentator is now the managing director for BGR Group, a leading lobbying firm that presents countless conflicts of interest for his on-air work. In its most recent lobbying quarter, BGR has continued to lobby on transportation issues. Its website also states, quote, "Our clients in the aviation, automotive, rail, shipping, and mass transit industries rely on BGR to educate political leaders about how vital these industries are to domestic and international commerce." So let me pause here for a second to tell you what their real job is. Their real job is to take money from these industries and then turn around and lobby the government for deregulation. Lobby the government to get the hell out of our way. We're in these industries. We want to squeeze every penny of profit out of this thing, so don't make us jump through any safety hoops. That's what he does. This guy is probably directly responsible for lobbying for the brake deregulation. Remember, Obama said, hey, we need the electronic brakes. These Civil War era brakes are a little yikesy. Trump got in there and said, no, we're going to let them keep using the Civil War era brakes. And this guy is a commentator, as if he can provide like objective analysis or an intelligent opinion. No, he is biased. He has a massive conflict of interest. He's going to lie to you. Urban also played a key role in the election of former President Donald Trump, who weakened safety regulations in the rail industry. He appeared on the February 26th edition of CNN State of the Union, where he participated in a panel discussion about East Palestine. CNN identified him on screen as a CNN political commentator and former Trump campaign advisor. During the segment, Bash said that the Trump administration rolled back regulations, to which Urban replied, quote, "There's plenty of blame to go around on this, when these kinds of things happen. But what's important is what we do moving forward, right? To take care of the people in these towns and communities." He then went on to criticize the Biden administration for allegedly sloughing off the crisis. CNN and Bash didn't disclose Urban's work for Norfolk Southern and BGR's connection to the railroad industry, and Bash didn't challenge him on whether any of the blame should go to Norfolk Southern or about his own work for the company. Norfolk Southern specifically lobbied against safety regulations. CNN has continued to employ Urban despite a dizzying array of ethical problems. For example, get this, guys. Urban urged a military strike against Iran without any disclosure that he worked for defense contractors. I'm losing my damn mind over here, man. I'm losing my damn mind over here. Remember, this network is one of the channels on YouTube that they consider authoritative content, authoritative news and politics. Whereas me and outlets like me, they're borderline content. So definitely don't allow the algorithm to help them out, to recommend the show to new people so they can grow. No. But CNN, recommend them everywhere. Give them a mega boost by the algorithm. Well, this is what people are being fed, man. I've never had on somebody to talk on my show who is a lobbyist and has a massive conflict of interest, and I don't disclose it. I've never even had a lobbyist on. Never mind, had one on and not disclosed the massive conflict of interest. They are misinforming you. This is propaganda. This is astonishing, man. And then, you wonder why there's all this misinformation in the wake of the crisis. And it was mainstream media pushing the misinformation. You needed to go to alternative independent outlets like The Lever and like Status Quo to get real information from people on the ground and learn about all the dying animals and whatnot. Now, thankfully, at this late date, mainstream media has caught up because they realize, hey, we can't, we're overstepping by downplaying it too much. So thankfully, they've now course-corrected a little bit, but it should have been from second number one they were on the job, and not... See, what they do is, if the government has an official statement, the EPA or any other regulatory agencies or the Biden administration, and they say, oh, no, we've decided that, the results are not that bad, and nobody's getting poisoned, nothing toxic is in the air, it all burnt off, there's nothing to see here. They just run with that. Zero skepticism. In the same way that when Fauci came out at the beginning of the pandemic and said, don't bother with masks. Masks don't work. And then they said, by the way, you don't need masks because they were trying to save masks for the frontline workers. They just lied on purpose. They just reported dutifully. No, you're supposed to fact check even the people who are the authorities because they lie all the time too. They mislead all the time too. Sometimes they just don't know and they're incompetent, right? But this is not what these guys do. They're a propaganda outlet. This is astonishing. Talking about bombing Iran. Meanwhile, he's getting paid by the defense contractors who get paid more if you bomb Iran. This is dangerous, man. You're playing with World War III here, taking this guy's opinion as if it's legitimate. Urban praised then Defense Secretary Mark Esper without the network disclosing that he personally lobbied the Defense Department on behalf of defense contractors. Urban repeatedly attacked environmental protections without disclosing he lobbied for fossil fuel-related clients, including Norfolk Southern, which transports coal. Urban repeatedly pushed for the passage of a trade agreement on air after he was hired to lobby for it. The network didn't disclose the conflict of interest. This is amazing. This is amazing. Nobody should trust any of these people. Urban touted a lobbying client's opposition to a tax bill without any disclosure that they paid him. I don't even know what to say, man, because what's so frustrating about this is all now out in the open to see, right? It's not going to be covered by many outlets. Shout out to Media Matter, shout out to ProPublica. But this is all out there in the open to see, and it will still not make a dent. YouTube won't say, hey, they're not authoritative. Let's drop them down. Let's boost up Kyle. Hey, he seems to have a pretty good track record of getting things right. Never. They never do that. Never do that. And so then it's on us to subvert the algorithm. And it's on us to try to build the audience, even though, they got us in chains. It's frustrating. It's frustrating. It's absolutely frustrating. So anyway, look, if you support the show, subscribe to the show, try to get it around, because when my blood pressure is shooting up reading stuff like this. I'm about to have an aneurysm live on air to see just how bad of a job they do and how much it doesn't matter, how much they get away with it. And they fool people. They fool people. Always be skeptical of the mainstream narrative, the corporate media outlets. Don't become so skeptical that you immediately start to take the alternative line at face value, because there's also people in alternative media that don't do a great job, and their audience captured, and they narrative hump and have all these problems. But just use your brain. And clearly, when you look at a story like this, there's red flag after red flag after red flag. And, the dude should obviously be fired, but also CNN should come on air and literally issue an apology for saying, hey, we were hoodwinked. This guy had all these conflicts of interest. But they would never, ever, ever do that. And they won't even fire him. Why? Because to them, this is just how it works. I'm sure they've done panels where it's nothing but big money lobbyists, corporate lobbyists on air with them. And they just think, what do you mean? We need somebody to comment on the story. They're going to comment on the story. They have a real opinion. Let's just run with it. It doesn't matter that Pfizer paid for their opinion or Raytheon paid for their opinion or fill in the blank with whatever corporation paid for their opinion. You should know who's telling you stuff and why they're saying it. And now you get a better idea. If you want to see me and Crystal Ball interview legends like Noam Chomsky, Cornel West, and more, subscribe to Crystal, Kyle, and Friends on Substack. $5 a month gets you the video version a day early. Remember, we take 0 ad dollars for this podcast. Or you can sign up on Substack for free and get the audio version a day later. Link in the video description box below.